So some UI changes. So I broadened the ARP button, and it's square with rounded corners. This is some logic here. These 8 round buttons are all shortcuts into your instrument list. So you find an instrument that you like, and then you long press on one of these buttons, and it's remembered as part of that button. But this is my structure: shortcuts into something, shortcuts into something, information compartmentalized into simpler panels, more simpler panels, and then fewer panels. This is the design evolution. But anyway, the ARP button was a little small, so it's now bigger, and yet I didn't have to compromise the inter button spacing here that I was afraid of. While you have percussion selected, I was thinking that I could swap in a different keyboard down here with, drum pads. Obviously not 64 drum pads, but somewhere between 4 and 8. And then there'd have to be some UI for, playing the one you want, getting it to appear here, and then long pressing on the drum pad to bind it, something like that. And then tap the drum pad to play it. And I guess it wouldn't have to only be for percussion. Oh, it's a little off your screen, isn't it? So we'll talk about that. Cello quiet. I choose that for a reason. So here's a cello. Perfect, beautiful cello. I'm going back and forth between Arpeggiator and chord keyboard. It's not a true arpeggiation, because I think to be a true arpeggiator, it would be driven by me, picking 3 or 4 notes like that, and then instead of just playing them all at once, it would arpeggiate them for me. So while my hand was just sitting there, or possibly even after I lifted it, it would continue to play those 3 or 4 notes, whatever they were, over and over again in some pattern. And then you would typically pick a triad, a major or minor, and it would, do its thing. But nothing said you had to do that. You could have picked something that was a little more complicated, or just plain wrong. Everything sounds so good with this instrument. In my system, basically, you pick a key signature, like B flat minor. And then you've probably seen the Roman numeral chords. So there's 7 chords in any given key signature, 7 basic Roman numeral chords. And it's a curiosity. The key signature is minor, but all 7 of the chords are not minor. It's usually about half and half, 3 and 4. It's always half and half, 3 and 4. And I think, it's always going to be B flat. Since this is B flat minor, that is the one chord, so B flat minor. But then the 7 chords, you can kind of think back. Well, back when this was the white keys, this would have just been C, D, E, F, G, A, B, just all in a row, the notes of the C scale. And so basically that's what you see here is B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat. I can tell you, I'll bet you those are the notes of the B flat scale, B flat minor scale. And if we make it a little simpler, like let's make it A minor. No, that's a little too simple. Let's make it G. Let's make it G major. Okay, so am I going to have enough room to do that? Okay, let's make it D major. Executive decision. So we all know that a D major scale would be so a couple black notes, And what do we see here? The first one should be D. Oh. Sorry. The second one should be E. Next one should be F sharp, our first black key. Next one should be G. Next one should be A. Next one should be B. And the next one should be D flat, so our second black key. And then we're back to D. And so there's nothing magical about the order of these chords, the order of the root letters of these chords. It's totally a function of the root letter of the key and the 7 notes that are natural to that scale. And when you're always thinking, well, what? Just go back to the white keys, the key signature of C, C major. You're just hitting the white keys in a row, boom, 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 boom. That's your scale. And you can look at that and you can say, oh, well, you know, here I had to hop over a black key, here I had to hop over a black key, but here I didn't. So this was a special spot here where you only had to go 1 half step instead of going 2 half steps in one jump. And it's that pattern, it's that hop, hop, don't hop, 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 don't hop, that makes it a major scale. And similarly, you can cheat if you don't remember this, like I often don't. I remember that A minor is the relative minor key to C major. So C major uses just the white keys, and A minor starts on A and also uses just the white keys. So when I need to remind myself where the jumps are in a minor key, I go to A minor and I say, oh, okay, there's 1 hop, then there's no hop, then there's 2 hops, and there's no hop. And and that shows you that I am ignorant. But I remember that A minor is the relative minor to C major. But that same relationship holds even if we were using D major. And, well, could we figure out what the relative minor to D major is? Well, is it too much to guess that it would just be B? So this was, it should use, if it's the relative major, it should use the exact same black keys, not just the relative ones. So if D major was do that one. So we're looking for a minor scale that uses these guys. So a D. I can believe that. I only fixated on it because, you know, I'm no expert, so I could have filled this with bugs. For example, should this be F sharp or should it be G flat? And I tended to optimize that with the understanding that I really liked, in the case of C major, it really is being as simple as just C, D, E, F, G. So I wanted it to be as simple as possible, and I wanted each of the letters to be represented, right? So here I fail that because there's no C represented here. And instead of C, I have a D flat, which could have been a C sharp. And I have another one, a D. So by my own statement of rules, I would have made that a C sharp. But I guess my rules are made to be broken. I think there is a way of looking at this correctly and saying, oh no, in this context it only makes sense for that F sharp to not be a G flat. And I feel like I have moments of insight where that makes sense to me and I could make a good prediction. I kind of like momentum. You know, it's like if things are moving in a certain direction, if they're moving, but I don't know if I'm concerned if they're moving towards something or away from something. But anyway, thank you, musical scientists of the past, for giving us more than one name for things. So anyway, but cello quiet is, first of all, it's my approximation of cello, obviously. And what I did was apparently I just dialed it down. This is an FM synthesis, so we can see that oscillators 1, 2, and 3 are the only ones that are being used, the other ones being read, and that 1 is modulating 2, and that 2 is modulating 3, so 3 is the only one that's in carrier mode, the only one that we're listening to. And so its attenuator level, which is currently -9 decibels, is how loud it sounds to us. Cello quiet. Anyway, the reason that I dialed down the intensity of the cello synthesis is because once you have the arpeggiator playing a note over and over and over again really fast, and I guess physics-wise, you could argue that it just means that there's more notes playing at once, and each note is a certain loudness, and if you have 5 of them playing, then it's umpteen times louder. So anyway, so my solution to that, because I don't have a knob for adjusting a balance between the loudness, that your subjective feeling about the loudness of the arpeggiator versus your own beautiful keyboarding work. So now you can have the arpeggiator using a quieter instrument, and then you can be using a nice loud instrument, or the opposite, depending on how you feel about yourself. And this, I added this lat thing for latching, so you can turn that on and off. And I'm puzzling over how I'm going to change the arpeggiation pattern selector. Right now, I know that that means strum. There's no way that anyone else would ever know that that meant strum. And I don't know that you'd even consider that this sounds like a strummed chord. That works better without latching. These are events that ultimately I want to survive going into the sequencer, getting recorded, and coming back out of the sequencer. And it didn't occur to me until late in the game that there are some events that need to happen faster than it's reasonable for my sequencer to make them happen. So there's a ruler. The sequencer basically divides time up into tiny little pieces, but it stops after a while. It says, this is a small enough piece. You can achieve your musical goals with pieces no smaller than this. If you want smaller than this, you're wrong, wrong, wrong. But of course, you want smaller than that for several reasons, and one of them is this strum. If I did that completely legally, that would go bum, bum, bum kind of thing, and that would not sound like a strum. So the effect I'm doing here, which is not necessarily all that much better, but at least it's programmable. I could actually dial that down to the millisecond, so that could sound better. But it's not capturable. It won't go into the sequencer. What the sequencer will see is it'll say, the note started here, and that was inside of this bucket, so therefore I will turn that into the note starting there. I am a little too rigid on that sort of thing. And it leads to other things being more difficult later on, too, so. Gotta be careful about rigidity. So anyway, so the problem is that not only do you not know that that ST stands for strum, but you don't know what you'll get when you push it. Oh, now it's up. Well, I like strum better. How do I go back to strum? Oh, now it's down. Now it's, I can only go forward. And, oh, I've already been here, haven't I? Oh, I think it's 16. Oh, no, it isn't. Wait. Oh, when I get to these, I know I'm getting close to the end. This one is supposed to be the first one, and for some reason it started at strum because of a bug, and I liked it that way, so I left it. But this is chord, and this is just playing the triad. And when people worry about chord progressions in songs, they often do all their designing in terms of the 1 through 7 chords, and they don't worry so much. Well, they may worry a lot because of the different emotions that humans take to different absolute pitches. But as far as if you can go from 1 to 4 and have it sound pretty good in D major, you can probably expect the same thing to happen in G major and C major. Likewise, if there's some chord progression that sounds nice in any minor key, it'll probably sound equally nice in any other minor key. D in general. Oh, hey, that's my name. Maybe that's why I like it. Okay, let's be in D. But I don't want to be D flat. I should be D sharp. Oh, E flat. Different. I'll be D minor for humility. Okay, I'll be D flat minor. Can't get any more humble than that. Well, that's nice. I have a good key. Now, I didn't think I'd want that, but now I kind of wish I could octave shift these guys, because like there I really wanted to go down. Now when you actually are doing arpeggiation, like say we take it to up, then I set the duration to 1. So what this is going to do is it's going to play 1 arpeggiation note per beat, and I've got my beat set to 80 beats per minute. And just to make this more of a robot, we'll track that down to 60 beats per minute. So 1 beat per second. So it should be coming out in time with the actual moment that the beat happens. And let's record it. And while the record is on, I echo the metronome down here. I'm experimenting with that. It seems reasonably in sync. Now you can only hold down 1 chord key at a time, and the lowest one wins. But you can then stop, and if it's slow like this, you can pretty much just play individual notes. And then if you get used to the arpeggiation pattern, you may just get really good at playing 1 or 2 or 3 notes of it. And a little faster. 2 beats, 2 arpeggiation notes per beat. And I think that I have work to do here when handing off from one chord to the next, because there's my incompetence in doing it on the beat, but also it's kind of impossible. I mean, you really have to be so close to perfect, because if you do it, you have to do it before the beat. That's what it is. You have to do it just a little bit before the beat. You have to do it really, really late in the previous beat. And then you have to be able to do that in an environment where there is lag in the keyboard. That's, you touch it and then there's a moment before that's actually registered by the software. So you end up with either these pauses, one 16th note pauses that you didn't want, or you end up catching one extra 16th note of the arpeggiation that you didn't want. So you get it as you go faster, that gets worse until you go fast enough. And then and when the arpeggiation gets complicated enough, but still, it's gonna sound better if you don't have a lot of uncomfortable steps. You know, I kind of like these. Anyway, so for the user interface for that, I was thinking tap it once and then you'd see the patterns down here and you'd pick on the pattern you wanted and it would close automatically and everything would be good. But I can't really give, this is like my smallest button size. I don't allow myself to make a button smaller than this. And so I need more buttons. Still, and maybe it's just bogus to be thinking in terms of having such a variety of baked-in arpeggiation patterns, and it would be better to just have a small number that you made yourself, and that basically you would tap a button here that would say, please record my arpeggiation pattern, and then you would go dop, 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 and then you'd be done. And well, then you'd tap over here and say, I'm done. Yeah. Wave hands. That would be the general idea. And then maybe some mixture of the two, you know, some classic patterns and then some small number of save slots for your own patterns. Maybe that would be enough to bring the total down to, you know, 7. And then it would just be 2 taps to select one. I don't know. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it doesn't come up. Okay, so this TU stands for thumb up. And I think they're saying your thumb is holding, so the root, I guess, will be held down the whole time. And then the other ones are going up. I think it'll be something like that. Oh, right. Sorry. It goes back and forth. Of course, that was D flat minor's version. And now to make it Emerson, Lake and Palmery. But I don't know, maybe for a cello, you really want slow stuff. Okay, D flat's a challenge for me. User interface changes. So the buttons are relocated and a little smaller here, and they're left to right the same, but slightly reorganized there. We've talked about all of these buttons now, except specifically this guy here, which is probably going to change. I definitely want to be able to set the root and the mode of the key signature. But it's kind of weird because it's like when you're at performance time, one of the things you really do want to have access to is the current octave. And I know that what I should do is that should be baked into the keyboard itself somehow. That, I don't know, if you hold down 3 fingers and move left to right, it should slide the keyboard. Or there should just be some dead zones like on that key and on that key, that if you tap in those locations, it moves you down an octave. And each of the C keys should, that should say C4 on it somewhere. In some tasteful way. So, I also hassled a lot with, actually I hassled quite a bit with this screen, but this one I like. This used to have 2 tabs on it, one with an array of little squares and one with some musical notes. And what I was trying to convey there was, when you were in musical note mode, you were in performance mode, where you were just turning loops. This is the loops panel. A loop. Oh, here, let's make a loop. Okay, if you just hold a little slot and then play a note, and then hold a little slot and play a note, and then hold a little slot and play a note, and then hold a little slot and play a note. Okay, so that's mind-numbingly slow. Okay, so the idea is that these are basically 16th notes. Loop 12, which I can now turn off, consists of those notes played in that order over and over and over again. And as part of this recording, as part of this song, as part of this groove, you have these 15 loop slots that you can fill up with rhythm patterns or whatever you like. And then once you've designed them the way you like them, you can now lock them. And so what's new in the UI is that this now is a lock concept. You unlock it to edit it, and then you lock it when you're done. The editing stuff turns off, and now they're safe. You won't accidentally change them, and that's why locking is such a great concept. And it took me a year to stumble on that. First I stumbled on, okay, I'll change it to record. There'll be a little record symbol that you can turn on and off. And that was my great way to consolidate it from 2 buttons to 1. But that was going to give me a 3rd record button, because I got that record button and I have this record button. So I didn't want to do that. And lock turned out to just be brilliant and perfect. And again, took me forever. And now, there's no justification for this being a tab shape. And this metronome that I'm looking for a place to move to, it's not necessarily wrong for the metronome to be on the same panel as this highly rhythmic drum pad thing. So your cue is to, I'm going to turn one on, I'm going to turn one off, I'm going to turn one on, I'm going to turn one off. So that makes sense. Turn one on, turn it on, I'm going to turn it off. And there I turned it off a little before the beat. I turned it on a little before. Yeah. Anyway. So UI change, if you're wondering what happened to those buttons. And again, the thought I was going to get to was that the beats per minute and the metronome and the key signature are things that I feel are song related, groove related, and therefore sequencer related, and therefore should be shown on a sequencer panel. But things that are specific to the instrument, like its preferred octave, should be shown on an instrument panel. But then at performance time, I guess that's the thing. This is actually doing 2 jobs. It's not only the preferred octave, but it's also the user interface for changing the octave I'm in. So I have a squeaky cello. And suddenly there's dogs barking at the front door.